Good evening, football fans. Welcome back to Between the Tackles. I'm your host, Dominic Minicozy, and tonight we're going to look at my 2021 NFL mock draft. Let's get started. Okay, so if you don't know, the NFL draft is tomorrow, and I was supposed to come out with a mock draft like a week or so ago, and I actually filmed that episode. You will see some clips from that possibly in this video, and I'll release some loose ones over the course of tomorrow. Today actually, because it's basically 1 a.m. right now, and I'm basically going to go through and give you my 32 picks, my first round mock draft. I'm just going to do it through this thing that we got going on right here, and I'm going to go pick by pick explaining, basically why I'm doing each of these picks. This video is probably going to be uncut. I'll probably cut it at a few sections, like where I just go make some trades and stuff. But nonetheless, this will be my first round mock draft. I'm sorry that this video isn't typical Between the Tackles. You may be wondering, like, Dom, where's the suit? Why are you wearing a Sixers shirt? Hey, but we still have our styrofoam cup here, and I'm going to try to make this episode as fun as we could possibly make it. So without further ado, let's get into the mock draft. So with the number one overall pick, I think this is pretty easy. I don't want to waste any time on it. Trevor Lawrence to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's basically set in stone. I said, I really don't want to waste any time talking about it. He's the number one quarterback in the draft and possibly the number one player. You can throw Kyle Pitts in that argument, but nonetheless, Trevor Lawrence. The number two overall pick, this seems to have been set in stone for weeks now, but Zach Wilson to the New York Jets. Again, something I don't want to waste that much time on because I just feel like it's basically been set in stone at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Jets took Justin Fields too, because I really do think that Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this draft, but all signs right now point to Zach Wilson unless Joe Douglas has something up his sleeve that we just don't know about. Pick number 3. Now, I've been throwing around this San Fran one in my head for a long time, the hype saying Mac Jones and stuff like that. Now, I am actually releasing a video later today, or, you'll see it eventually. But basically, I interviewed Matt McGlinchey, whose brother Mike McGlinchey plays for the 49ers, and also his cousin Matt Ryan plays for the Atlanta Falcons. And we basically went in depth on these picks, but he also agrees with this decision here at number 3. And so I have Justin Fields going to the San Francisco 49ers. I think all this Mac Jones stuff is just being blown out of proportion. And quite honestly, Justin Fields is the only guy I could see going here to the Niners at 3. Also, the logic is you don't trade up to 3 to get a guy that's, he's a very talented brain. He can definitely process football at a high level, but the athletic talent just really isn't there, and he'll still be a top 10 pick for sure, but Mac Jones is just not he's not going to do anything more for this offense besides just be a healthy Jimmy G. Pick number 4. Now, a lot of people say the Atlanta Falcons are taking a quarterback. I think it's just, basically BS that they're just putting out there in order to get somebody to trade up with them at number 4. But I have them taking Kyle Pitts here. I think that Julio Jones is going to be out the door in a trade not too long from now, probably after June 1st, so that they can work that cap situation a little bit better. But I think they're going to need a perimeter threat, especially because Julio Jones is only good for like 9 to 10 games a year. He's not going to be healthy all season. At max, you'll probably get him for like 14 or 15 games, especially on the 17-game schedule. So you're not going to get him for a full season. And especially at 32 years old, he's only going to regress from that. So you need a perimeter threat. You already have Calvin Ridley. I think Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect that's been around in my lifetime for sure. So I think it's a pretty easy pick. It's a talent you can't pass up on. And regardless of extra picks, look, you're going to have a high second rounder, Kyle Pitts here at 4. Bengals, all this Jamar Chase stuff is really making me angry because if you look at the giant scar going down Joe Burrow's knee, it's pretty obvious that they're going to get some offensive linemen in this draft. So I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 5 taking Penei Sewell. Now, real quick, I'm going to make sure that this is recording properly, so I'm a little bit paranoid from what happened last episode, so I will be right back with the Dolphins pick. Real quickly, just to explain the Penei Sewell pick, look, the Bengals need offensive linemen, and particularly they could use a left or right tackle, and that's what Penei Sewell could play for this team. I know they got Riley Reif on a one-year deal, and I know they have Jonah Williams, but look, they need to build this offensive line. They need to protect their investment that they made last season with the number 1 overall pick. It just seems too obvious to me that they would not it would make absolutely zero sense for them not to take the best tackle prospect in the draft and lock up this O-line, because somebody will. He's going to go, and there's no trading back into the first round. There's no none of that. You need to get this guy, and I think that he's the guy there at 5. Now, at 6, I have a little bit different of a philosophy from most mock drafts. A lot of people have the Dolphins, getting Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, if available, at 6, or Jalen Waddle for that matter. But a lot of people do not have them getting Devontae Smith. Now, here's why the Dolphins drafting Devontae Smith is the most obvious thing that nobody saw. Is because, one, the Dolphins already have 2 great perimeter receivers. And what does that mean? They have 2 guys that can play the X and Z on that offense and basically be their bodies. That's Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. They're already contested catch guys that you're going to line up on, at your perimeter receiver positions. They need a slot receiver, like a traditional slot. And while Jamar Chase is a talented receiver, runs great routes, can do the whole 9, I really don't think that his abilities in the slot are even comparable to a Devontae Smith. I mean, this guy won the Heisman. He's proven. He's great. The only knock on him is the size, and I think it's over-analysis. I mean, Tyreek Hill's been successful, and he's been durable. There's no reason that Devontae Smith can't do the same, especially for how wide open he gets on his routes. They need a traditional slot, and also the fact that Devontae Smith played with Tua is a leg up to me. Now, you may be saying, Dom, but what about Jalen Waddle? He's a speed demon. Here's the thing that worries me. I don't know the exact stat, but Jalen Waddle has not played a whole lot of snaps in the slot as a wide receiver. That's mainly because of Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith eating up a majority of those snaps in the slot. So he's not as refined of a route runner. He's going to need a little bit of polishing, and they have a go guy in Will Fuller. They have a guy that's just fast and is just going to run straight down the field and get open. So Jalen Waddle, drafting Jalen Waddle would just be getting another Will Fuller, and drafting Jamar Chase would be just like getting another Devontae Parker or Preston Williams for that matter, just like another guy to line up at your perimeter receiver spot. Devontae Smith is worth the 6th overall pick. I mean, the guy's proven. I can definitely see this happening, and I think most mock drafts will start to fall apart right here at this pick. I think the Dolphins will shock most people, but I don't think that they're fooling me at all. At number 7, this makes this pick pretty easy, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but look, the Lions do need a receiver. They just lost Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. They need a guy. They really do need a target, and Jared Goff is a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's an above average top 16 quarterback in the league. I mean, you could say what you want. The guy's been to a Super Bowl. The guy's been to Pro Bowls. He's a pretty good quarterback, but he needs people to throw to. And Hockenson being his best target on the team isn't really. It's not a recipe for success. So you go get easily a top 3 receiver in this draft. I mean, I don't think I really have to attest to how great Jamar Chase is just because I didn't take him at 6. But Jamar Chase is that dude. I mean, he could be your number 1 receiver. And quite honestly, I think they're number 1 in dressing a need, 2 going best player available. And also, I think that trading out of this spot would be pointless because while you could use help on the offensive line, it's a deep offensive line class. You're going to be drafting with the 7th pick in the 2nd round, whatever number that is. I'm stupid. But quite honestly, I can't see them drafting anyone else but Jamar Chase if he's still here. So Lions at 7, Jamar Chase. Now with the number 8 pick, I have my first trade. Don't pay attention to any of this other jargon, but you can see that I'm clicking the Patriots. So the Patriots are going to trade with the Carolina Panthers. Wait up. No. Go back. Proposed trade. So the Patriots are going to propose a trade to the Carolina Panthers. And basically, New England's going to offer up their pick this year and a first next year. And I'm just going to throw in a bunch of these so that the trade goes through. For that number 8th overall pick, Yeah, and it's been accepted. Good. So we just got that done real quick. I really don't know what they're going to offer, but like they could offer Stephon Gilmore up or something like that too because he's on the last year of his deal. But Patriots offer something. They trade up to 8. They need a quarterback. They're Cam Newton's good, and Cam Newton can be serviceable this season. I truly believe Cam Newton's still a solid NFL quarterback, but they need a quarterback. And I think Carolina is in a weird situation where they don't really need a quarterback, and they can defer their picks down the line if Sam Darnold doesn't work out now. So I think they're going to go all in on Darnold this year and say, hey, we're going to build a good roster around Darnold. We're going to give him we're going to use the weapons that we have. We're going to give him a better O-line. We're going to give him a better defense. And we're going to see if we can make it to the playoffs with this guy. And I truly believe that will happen, and I think they believe that will happen. So at number 8 here, the Patriots are going to take Trey Lance. One, he can sit a year behind Cam Newton, learn, and get better. Also, he's the second most athletic quarterback in this draft behind Justin Fields. Guy's outstanding. I don't really think I have to attest to how great Trey Lance is. I also think his mentality, if you watch any interviews of the kid, very Belichickian, very like, I'm just gonna outwork you. I may not be the best quarterback in the NFL, but I'm going to outwork you, and that's how we're gonna win these football games. But I think he fits the offensive scheme they're trying to run with the 2 tight ends. I mean, you could say Mac Jones because they had Tom Brady, but I think that's just being lazy. They need a quarterback that fits the team that they have currently, and I think that's Trey Lance. Also, I think he's got higher upside than Mac Jones. At number 9, this is also pretty easy. Look, Broncos are going Mac Jones. They came out the other day and said that they're going to bring in competition for Drew Lock, and that's exactly what they're going to do right here. They're going to get a quarterback. They need a quarterback. Vic Fangio is not going to expect his defense to be the greatness that they are if Drew Lock's turning over the ball, which he doesn't have a turnover problem per se, but he does turn over the ball more than you would like to see, and he's not necessarily a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL yet. So I think they go Mac Jones here. They get a guy who's cerebral, guy who's going to protect the football, great completion percentage, great touchdown interception ratio. I think this is a really solid pick for the Denver Broncos, and I think they'll be very happy with Mac Jones at 9, and I think that will end the quarterbacks in the first round. I think we got all 5 off the board here. So all going to the top 10. Now we go on to the Cowboys. The Patrick Surtain pick's pretty easy. I know they like J.C. Horn potentially, and I know they like a handful of other guys, but look, Patrick Surtain is the most guaranteed corner in the draft as of right now. I personally like J.C. Horn better. I think the guy's a specimen. I do think that he gets you in a potential pass interference trouble. He's a little physical, but there's nothing wrong with having a physical corner, especially, when you got to go. But I'll talk about the J.C. Horn pick later. But look, Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys is I'm not going to say it's a surefire pick, but I'm going to say it's a safe pick for them. Look, they need defense, number 1. 2, Patrick Surtain played in a defense that not necessarily asked a whole lot of him, but was led by a great coaching staff at Alabama. He was asked to play a much more cerebral form of football than I think most other teams ask of their players, and I think he's going to do just fine in Dallas. I don't think he's going to be a stud in his first year or anything like that because he's not playing with necessarily a great roster around him, but I think that he will be their corner 1. I think he will do pretty solid, especially playing the Eagles receiving core. He may not do great against Scary Terry and Kenny Golladay, but he will do just fine. I really don't have any doubts about Surtain. He'll fit in zone. He can play a little bit of man. He's not necessarily a great man coverage corner, but he can do everything at a pretty good level. Some things at a very high level and some things at just an average level, but no real weak spots on this guy. So I like him at 10 to the Cowboys. At 11, this one's pretty easy for me. New York did not address O-line a whole lot in free agency. I mean, they signed I think 1 or 2 guys, but they also let Zeitler walk, I believe, which was their guard. Here, wait, I got to take a sip. Styrofoam, go. That just spilled in my pants. Good thing I'm not wearing the khakis. Okay. They didn't spend a whole lot of money in free agency on the O-line, and they let Kevin Zeitler walk. Look, Rashawn Slater is the second best offensive lineman prospect in this draft. You could say what you want about him being undersized for a tackle, but this guy's going to be a special offensive lineman regardless. And if you have to play him at guard and he's an all-pro guard, look, Quentin Nelson at number 6 does not look like a stupid pick now for the Cowboys, does it? Not at all, because he's outstanding. And here's the thing. If you draft a player, but he's not a premium position, he's not a left tackle or an edge rusher, but he's still amazing, nobody's going to heckle you for it. Nobody's going to give you any crap for drafting Rashawn Slater at 11. You need to make this O-line better. One, because your running back got hurt, and you can look at the scars on his knee too from the surgeries. And 2, your quarterback's going to need time in the pocket. You have receivers. You've got Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram is not that good, but you have Evan Ingram, somebody to throw to. You have Saquon Barkley. This offense is going to be just fine with weapons. I truly believe that they need to go O-line here, and I think Rashawn Slater's best player available. I don't want to waste too much time on this pick because it seems so obvious to me that if this guy's sitting here at 11, you take him. At 12, I was tossing around this one a whole lot because the Eagles organization is absolutely infatuated with J.C. Horn, but this receiving core is abysmal. And while I would pick J.C. Horn here personally, but this is a mock draft that I'm trying to be right on, and I'm trying to get some picks correct. So I'm going to go with the Eagles taking Jalen Waddle. Now, of course, Philadelphia guy, Eagles fan. What can I say about this pick? Look, the Eagles aren't going to be able to pay a premium receiver this year. They want to put Jalen Hurts in a position to succeed as best as they can, even though it may not be ideal circumstances. They want to put him in the best position to succeed as possible because you got rid of Wentz. You want to look good for getting rid of Wentz. I mean, getting rid of Wentz was basically the only option. I talked about that in my first video ever on this channel. But you want to make Jalen Hurts look good because if you don't, then you kind of look like an idiot if you're Howie Roseman specifically, especially the guy drafting this evening. I think if Jalen Waddle is on the board at 12, there is no reason not to take him other than the fact that you love J.C. Horn. I love J.C. Horn. You love J.C. Horn. We all love J.C. Horn. But at the end of the day, Jalen Waddle he's the guy. And if New York and Dallas don't screw us over, which if Dallas drafts another receiver just to screw us over again, would be very ironic and funny. But look, Jalen Waddle's sitting here at 12. Jalen Reagor's not going to cover this offense, and now we're going to have 3 Jalens on this offense. I mean, what can I say? But, I don't think that there's any more to be said about this pick. I think Eagles fans will be fine. I don't think anyone's going to complain. He's speed demon, plays the receiver position fine. He could use a little bit of touching up on his route running. And I also think that there's other speedy receivers in this draft that kind of comp to him. But Jalen Waddle's good. He's fine. Got a little bit of injury concerns, but there's other great players that have had injury concerns that have turned out just fine, so I wouldn't let it affect us. But don't be surprised if the Eagles go J.C. Horn here at 12, but I have them taking Jalen Waddle because I'm trying to be right, but who knows? You can never be right with the Eagles. Am I right? At 13, it looks like I'm just picking the top players on this board. I don't know why it looks like this, but as we get later on in this draft, you'll kind of understand my thought process. But I have the Los Angeles Chargers at 14 taking left tackle Christian Darrisaw. Let's put it pretty simply for you. They got to protect Justin Herbert. I mean, Justin Herbert's a baller, and they don't need receivers for him to throw to. They could go J.C. Horn here because Casey Hayward is no longer on the team. But, hey, they just re-signed Michael Davis. They still have Chris Harris Jr. There's no reason for them not to build this offensive line. I understand they signed Corey Linsley and Matt Filer, but look, Matt Filer is not going to be your franchise left tackle. You need a franchise left tackle. Christian Darrisaw, in terms of the film that I've grinded on this guy, he looks very technically sound. He looks like he could be a bruiser at times at the tackle position, but overall, he's just solid. He's as a strict left tackle, I think he's a pretty safe pick. There are things that I worry about. There were times that maybe his anchor was not the strongest and he got bullied back into the quarterback a little bit. However, I think with NFL coaching, it's nothing that makes me too worried about him. If he puts on 15 pounds, he could be just fine. And it's also a week-to-week matchup basis. I just think he's a solid left tackle. I mean, there's not much for me to say about him. I think his hand placement's really good. I think his leverage is good. I think he moves well in space for the most part. Not a whole lot of red flags. I mean, played for a pretty solid program, Virginia Tech. Faced a handful of good pass rushers. Not a lot of great ones, but did face some pro competition. Had a little bit tougher games then, but, still persevered and played strong. So, yeah, I think left tackle Christian Darrisaw to Los Angeles Chargers here is pretty simple. I think most mock drafts have him going there anyway, so I think we can all agree that that's a pretty solid pick. But now at 14, now this is where I start getting a little bit deeper onto this side right here. But the Minnesota Vikings. Now, most people are thinking that they're going to trade down, but they need an immediate contributor on their offensive line. Yeah, they're not too good there right now. I mean, they lost Riley Reif in the offseason, and I guarantee they lost a handful of other guys too. But they need an offensive lineman that's going to contribute immediately. And the only guy that I can think of at this moment that's going to do so that already hasn't been drafted yet is Elijah Vera Tucker, USC. I like him a lot. This is a guy that is NFL ready by all standards. He's played tackle, he's played guard, and he's done well at both. I think he'll be a much better guard, a potential Pro Bowler at guard than he will be at tackle, but you could plug him in there if you really do need a tackle. But let's just put it simply based on team needs. Dalvin Cook runs the ball well, and you want to keep him healthy, and you want to do the best you can to put a good offensive line in front of him. Kirk Cousins isn't that mobile, and you need a block for him, so that's also another reason. And you're not going to have any time to throw to your great receivers, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, if you don't figure out this offensive line situation. So the could go defense here, the could go Kwity Paye as a pass rusher, another one that I've thought of, but they could potentially be overdrafting. I don't think that there's many edge rushers in this draft that are that I would take that high just in terms of upside. I mean, I value edge rushers more than most people because it's between the tackles, man, and we're all about the trenches. But I'm still all about the trenches here on the O-line. I love to see it. As former offensive lineman, offensive guard myself in high school, there's nothing I don't like about him at the guard position. One second. There's nothing I don't like about him at the guard position. So I think Elijah Vera Tucker, 14, great pick. And I think Minnesota will be happy with their immediate starter. Took a little sip there. Okay, 15. We have the Carolina Panthers. Now, I am a big fan of the Carolina Panthers just because of their coaching staff and basically everything about them. I really like this team a lot. Now, I've been throwing a lot of picks in my head, and originally I had them taking Micah Parsons here after trading down, but quite frankly, I think that they are okay enough at the linebacker position, and J.C. Horn is good enough at the corner position that I'm going to have them taking J.C. Horn 15 here. I know this is a little bit late for J.C. And a little bit late for Micah, but look, they're not going to just send Dante Jackson and an older A.J. Bouye out there and expect them to hold it down in that secondary. I mean, Jeremy Chin's a good safety, Trey Boston's solid, but look, they need a franchise corner, and they need a guy that they're not going to have to pay a total ransom to. Now, this is all contingent, by the way, on if New England gives up Stephon Gilmore to go up to that pick. If they do give up Stephon Gilmore, it's Micah Parsons all the way, or potentially a pass rusher to go opposite of Brian Burns or Hassan Reddick or whoever they got. But J.C. Horn, as of right now, provided that Stephon Gilmore is not on the roster because of this Patriots trade, I think he's a really good corner. I think that you can ask him to do things in man coverage that most other corners can't do. I don't think he's that twitchy in zone. I don't think he's a guy that you could sit in four quarters and is going to, pat the feet, go up and make a great tackle. However, I think he's a really great man coverage corner. Is a little bit risky in terms of getting pass interference calls, but nonetheless, I trust this guy to hold it down in the NFL. And again, just like I thought with Christian Darrisaw up here and even Elijah Vera Tucker, with a good coaching staff, which I think Carolina has, you can mold this guy into a great corner, has the athleticism, has the size. He'll be great at that position, and I think it'll be a good pick for Carolina. Now, I'm basically flip-flopping the picks here because I did have Arizona taking J.C. Horn, but I'm going to have them taking Micah Parsons. Look, they need more playmakers on this defense, and I don't care if they have Jordan Hicks and Isaiah Simmons. You need playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. And in the division that they play in, you need do-it-all linebackers. You need guys that can line up as pass rushers. You need guys that can cover tight ends, and they have some pretty solid tight ends in their division, some pretty solid running backs. Micah Parsons can do all that. You could throw Micah Parsons on the edge, and I guarantee that he will be just a fine pass rusher. He's fast. He's 6'3". He'll be able to make something happen there. But he can also make great tackles. There's some good running backs in this division. You're going to have to go against Cam Akers twice a year. You're going to have to go up against the running backs on the Niners that always run well because of that Shanahan defense. And I think the only way to stop it is with athletic guys that can make plays on those zone run schemes that both McVay and Shanahan like to run. And, maybe they'll even run it in Seattle next year just because they saw it work so well. So, quite frankly, I don't think this is a bad pick for them at all. I think Micah Parsons is very raw. But I think playing with guys like Jordan Hicks, playing with an Isaiah Simmons is going to elevate their game so much that I'm not necessarily worried about Micah Parsons contributing well on this team at all. And I think they're going best player available. I think that this is a great spot to have him at 16. At 17, now this is a premature pick. Not really. It's not crazy. It's nothing like out of the blue. But look, the Raiders absolutely decimated their O-line, which is kind of I don't really know how to explain it. It's just disappointing to see them get rid of so many great offensive linemen. But it makes me believe that the only possible pick here at 17 could be a bruiser at right tackle because they got Colton Miller to fill in that left tackle spot. Sorry, that sounded weird. They got Colton Miller to fill in that left tackle spot at the end of the day, and they got some guys on the interior that are young and coming up, like Nick Martin, who they signed in free agency and stuff like that. But in order to run the ball with Josh Jacobs as much as they do, and in order to keep that offense going, not to mention they got Kenyon Drake in that backfield. Kenyon Drake in that backfield. I think that Tevin Jenkins here is a pretty solid pick. I know this sounds crazy, and I know it sounds pretty early to get a guy like Tevin Jenkins, but he's a bruiser at right tackle. And for what he doesn't have as a pass protector, I know the biggest knock on him is that he's not a crazy pass protector. But hear me out. His abilities in the run game will open up plays for him in the passing game. They'll be able to run play action and get serviceable offensive line play out of Tevin Jenkins because he's going to bully the defensive ends or interior defensive linemen in front of him to the point where they can show run on a play and they can get off the pass just fine by faking it to Josh, faking it to Kenyon Drake, and then going out to one of their receivers, Henry Ruggs, whoever else they got out there. So it looks like he fits into the scheme just fine, and also I think he's talented. I think he's a really talented run blocker. Defensive lines are not going to want to line up against this guy every week because he's a bruiser. But yep, Tevin Jenkins at 17. Now at 18, I'm actually very proud of this pick because I don't think a lot of people see it coming, but I also think this is something that I see happening totally. I don't know why I know Miami so well. I'm a pretty big Miami fan. I love Brian Flores, the head coach, but Kwity Paye, Michigan, edge, but not just an edge. Here's why I'll explain this pick. So first of all, they just lost Lawson and Kyle Van Noy as two sort of edge rushers. Lawson was one of their edge rushers, and Kyle Van Noy was sort of a hybrid linebacker, edge rusher kind of guy, but they need a presence on that D-line. They can't expect Emmanuel Ogbah to go out there and do it himself. Now, in Brian Flores' defensive scheme, he asks a lot of his defensive ends. He asks them to line up in 4-3 sometimes, 3-4 sometimes. Well, with Kwity Paye's 6'4", 270-pound, 36 reps on the 225 bench type frame, he is going to be just fine in this scheme. Like, B-Flow is going to be able to ask him to do whatever the hell he wants. I think B-Flow is going to like this guy a lot. First edge off the board. Now, here's the thing that I love as a D-line connoisseur and pass rusher myself. His two-hand swipe is immaculate. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm, like, praising him too much or being too sparing with my compliments, but Kwity Paye to me could possibly be the best edge rusher in this draft. Now, is he going to be a crazy stats guy? I don't think so, especially if he ends up playing a lot of his snaps in the interior. But I think the beauty of Kwity Paye is that he'll be able to start day one and give you meaningful snaps in both scenarios. And he's got experience as a 4. He's got experience as a 3. Or as a 4. God, was I saying 4 tech this whole time? Sorry, as a 5 technique, as an edge rusher, playing on the edge. But he also can play the 4. I mean, if you really need him to play the 4 interior, you can have him do that too. But he'll be fine. He's a big, strong guy, has good technique, and I don't really think that he has much bust potential. I mean, the worst thing that you're going to get out of him is that he doesn't do crazy in the sack department, but that defense is so unique that it can generate pass rush on its own. So I think he's going to hold it down there with the 18th overall pick, Kwity Paye, Michigan. I'm going to stop the recording again just to space out these recordings, but you will see me back to do this Washington pick at 19. So we're going to do a little bit of a trade. Actually, do I even need to do a trade here? I originally had a trade going, but I think I'm going to close this real quick. So at 19, Washington is hard to draft for because on one hand, they don't have a lot of needs, and the needs they do have can be kind of picked up later. Now, this seems like a premature pick, but don't be surprised if they trade down and get this guy. But I'm just going to keep the draft the way it is because I don't really think that necessarily anyone's going to trade up for this player because I could just see him going later on in the first round. But Washington is going to get a safety, and more specifically the best safety in this draft. Because they're not going to straw out there with Cameron Curl and freaking Troy Apke as their 2 starting safeties next year to play behind that immaculate defensive line and with those 2 great corners, William Jackson and Fuller, holding it down on each side of the field. So they're going to get Trayvon Merrick. He's going to be an instant contributor to this defense. Like, I really don't know what else to say. I mean, this safety class isn't crazy deep. I know that there's guys like Javon Holland that are going to be second-round picks, but I think that they're making a business decision here, and they could go O-line, but I think, again, deep O-line class, you could get offensive linemen in the second round. You can get receivers in the second round if you want a big body to complement the Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel duo on that offense. But hear me out here. This defense needs, like, a legit safety, and they don't really have one. Last year they were fine not having, like, great safeties, but I think having a guy like Trayvon Merrick who plays, I don't really know how to explain his play style because on one hand he's a solid run defender, and I don't think he's necessarily a free safety. I think I would start him more at the strong safety position, but he's not a thumper. He's not like a run support kind of guy, which makes me think that he's going to fit into this defense pretty well because they're already physical up front. They're already good linebackers. I'm really not worried about them having a safety that's going to thump. But he's good at covering tight ends and matching up well with those kind of guys because he's not small. He's like, I think he's 6'1", like 2-something, 215 or something like that. But not a very small guy, kind of built like a linebacker. 215, I don't know where I'm getting that stat from. But he's not a small safety. Let me just put it like that. So he's going to play there strong. And from the tape that I've seen on him, I think the best way to put him as a prospect is we don't really know what his ceiling is, but we know what his floor is. And that's he's going to be a starting safety in the NFL. He's going to contribute to his team, and I think he's going to look really good playing behind the rest of this defense. They just need a starting safety. And I think Trayvon Merrick, as far as I'm concerned, just is the best safety I've watched on film in this draft. Not much more to say there, but I think Trayvon Merrick, although it's a reach at 19, even if they trade down, I could see them getting Trayvon Merrick in this draft. Even if I'm going to count it as a win, even if they draft him later on. Let me just say that. That's what I'm going to say. Bears at 20. I've been juggling around this pick a lot, but they have to go offensive line. And Samuel Cosme looks like the guy for them. I mean, I know that they could go get receiver help and stuff like that and like a potential guy to fill in after Allen Robinson hits the market next year. But look, man, they could get a quarterback later on in this draft, a guy maybe like a Jamie Newman or Kellen Mond, get him in the second round or something like that. I don't know, Kyle Trask. It's too late. It's too late to start thinking about quarterbacks. You're not trading up. You're not going to give up Khalil Mack to go get a quarterback because that's just, you're just giving up one of the things that makes your team great to get another thing that might make your team great. Like it's just it's not plausible to me. But what they do need help on is that offensive line, and they have good receivers. Darnell Mooney is actually pretty solid. I like Allen Robinson. I always called him Allen Iverson. That's probably why, but. He's a good receiver. I don't think that they're struggling at that at all. I like their tight end out of Notre Dame. Komet's good. But they need help on this offensive line. Like, frankly, one, they're kind of old. They have a lot of veterans on that O-line. And I think Samuel Cosme is a pretty solid tackle. Do I think that he's the best tackle available at the spot? Maybe not necessarily. I'm a big fan of that Dylan Radunes kid from North Dakota State, but I also do think that he could be a total bust because he didn't play against any crazy competition in college, which makes him more of a early second-round pick for a team that's looking for some tackle help. But what I do think Samuel Cosme has is a pretty solid resume of pass rushers that he's went up against, number one. And number two, he's pretty technically sound. I mean, he's not specimen athletically. He's a big guy. I mean, he can hold his own weight. He can block in the run game, certainly, and he can certainly pass protect. He's a pretty average tackle. I think that as far as offensive line concerned, it's hard to grade them going into the draft because there's certain things that you look for technique-wise, but it's so hard to predict how they're going to play in the NFL because it's all about how much effort that you're going to put in once you get there. How much time you're going to truly spend working on that technique, how well you're going to study the verbiage of your offense and really know how to pick up blitzers and stuff like that. So Samuel Cosme looks like a pretty safe pick at tackle, and also just doing my research of other people that have graded tackles, Samuel Cosme seems to be up there as an offensive lineman. So I'm going to trust, one, my eye tests of offensive linemen, and two, just, what other people are saying about him as an offensive lineman. So, yep, Samuel Cosme at 20 looks pretty solid to me, to the Chicago Bears. 21. This is a pretty unpopular pick, but this guy's still sitting on the board. I don't know if you can see my mouse right here, but this guy right here, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I like him a lot. And you know what? He's an exact replica too, and I'll probably show it on the screen somewhere right here. Actually, I probably won't because I'm not going to edit this video. But he's a lot like Anthony Walker, who they just lost this offseason, and he was a heavy contributor on that defense. They need to go defense here. You can say what you want about them getting a receiver and getting help for Carson Wentz or whatever, but I'm not buying it. Look, they're going best player available here, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is just like their 100-plus tackle linebacker they had last year that was a great compliment to Darius Leonard. If you look at their dimensions, they're both 6'1". Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a little bit heavier. Anthony Walker's like 215. Anthony Walker's like 200, actually. I think he's like 210. And Owusu-Koramoah is like more closer to 220 and around that range. Their weights change day by day, so I'm not really going to keep that as a set-in-stone statistic. But they're basically identical in terms of athleticism and stuff like that. Owusu-Koramoah is great because he was asked to do a lot in coverage. He could potentially, play almost like a safety-type role in this defense as a nickel linebacker, and I think that he will be a good contrast to the big, menacing Darius Leonard that causes turnovers. And this will be a guy to make a lot of those downfield tackles, to cover a lot of those guys that you're going to have to play in your division. And I just like this pick here. I really do. It's something that I thought about, and I was like, listen, I know they kind of look good at linebacker having Darius Leonard there, but other than that, I could really use a guy. And I don't think edge. I think it's a little early for them to go edge rusher. I think if they go edge rusher in the second round and get a guy to complement, DeForest Buckner in the middle, I think that's fine. You get a guy like Ronnie Perkins in the second round. Really solid guy. You could get good value out of that guy. But yeah, and also I should also mention that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is like one of the only true first round talents left on the board. I really only think that there's like two more guys here that I would even consider first round talents to be left in this draft, and I think they're going best player available here. So yeah, Joker at 21 to the Colts. At 22, my life has been made pretty easy here. I know a lot of people like this Greg Newsome kid a whole lot, but Caleb Farley, if it weren't for the back injury and if it weren't for the COVID season, he would probably be in the conversation for the best corner in this draft. So I'm going to get him. They need a corner desperately. They just lost to Dory Jackson. Jonathan Joseph is gone. I don't even think Desmond King is still there. They need a corner pretty bad. And it would make sense to me for them to go corner here. They need, again, it's a need for the team, but also Caleb Farley over Greg Newsome. Let me just explain this simply. Like, Caleb Farley's just a better corner. He's a better all-around guy. I think he was asked to do a lot more at Virginia Tech. I think he faced some better competition than Greg Newsome. And I think he's an all-around better athlete. I think the only reason that he's this late in the draft and not a top 15 pick is, one, the injury concerns, and two, the COVID season. But other than that, he's an outstanding guy. There's nothing that I've seen on film that makes me go, oh, this guy's like not going to be a good corner. So Caleb Farley, 22, and then keeping this trend of corners going. You thought, oh, maybe Greg Newsome's going to fall out of the first round. Hell no, he's going to the Jets because they aren't inept at the corner position. Bryce Hall and Bleswan Alston are not going to be holding it down for them at the corner position. They are going to need a legit guy that's actually going to, be a corner for them. And I think Greg Newsome is pretty solid as a zone corner, and he's going to play well in that Robert Saleh scheme that basically he's just going to be in zone a lot. And he's going to be asked to do a lot of reading and a lot of cerebral stuff, and I think that's what Greg Newsome's good at. At Northwestern, that's kind of I don't know too much about Northwestern's defensive scheme, but it just kind of looked like that's what he was doing a majority of the time. But nonetheless, they need a corner. So I think they're going best corner available here for sure, and I think they're filling a team need. And I also think they're getting one of the last players left in this draft that's actually a first-round talent. So, yeah, Greg Newsome here at 23. I like the pick. You like the pick. Jets fans will hopefully like the pick. They could go O-line, but that's an early second-round thing. They'll get Leatherwood or somebody. Trust me, they'll be fine. At 24 here, now this is going to be a crazy early pick. I'm going to look like an absolute stooge for this one, but I just don't know why this guy isn't higher. Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame. He's a pretty solid tackle. I mean, I know this is like kind of going early for him, but my defense is that Coach Tomlin was at Notre Dame's pro day scouting Liam Eichenberg to play tackle. He reminds me a lot of Villanueva, their left tackle right now. I don't know why. It just looks like he fits into this offense. This could be crazy overdrafting, but I think that this whole thing is kind of all over the place. I don't understand why some of these offensive guards are ranked as high overall as they are. Like, offensive guards are important, I get it, but there's only a handful of offensive linemen that are actually this valuable. And there's only a handful, like Najee Harris is not, in terms of value, like if we're talking pure value at the positions here, like Najee Harris I don't even think is more valuable than, like, isn't even the most valuable running back in this draft. I mean, he could be to some people depending on how you run your offense, but nonetheless. Oh, also, I should mention, a lot of people have the Steelers drafting Najee Harris because their run game wasn't good. But let me just explain something to you for those of you that don't understand how football works. Getting a new running back because your running game isn't working out is the equivalent to buying a new baseball bat because you can't hit the ball properly. It's purely cosmetic. While having a great running back certainly helps you run the football, if you don't have O-linemen in front of him that are gonna block for him, getting a new running back's pointless. It's almost secondary or tertiary, First thing, you got to have a good coach that's going to run a good scheme. 2, you got to have good players that are going to execute that scheme. And 3, Then you have the guys that like they're skill players that are going to thrive as a result of the scheme and the great trenches that you've built there. And it's between the tackles, baby. I mean, we're all about the O-line here. So I'm going to have them taking Liam Eichenberg here. I know this may be premature for some people. I mean, a lot of mock drafts don't even have him going in the first round, but I just think based off of Mike Tomlin's actions and how he looks on film compared to Alejandro Villanueva and all that jazz, I think that I could see him here at tackle. And also, there's not that many great tackles left in the first round anyway. So I think they go Liam Eichenberg here at 24. At 25, Jacksonville. Tough team to draft for. I know I was just talking about running backs. Look, I know this sounds crazy, and I didn't just come up with this on the spot, but it looks like I'm coming up with it on the spot because I'm like I can think of something better than this, but I think this is too convenient to pass up on. Now, look, I know they got James Robinson at running back. That's fine, but you got to reunite Travis Etienne with his quarterback, man. I mean, he's sitting here at 25. You could get him with the first pick in the second round, but some of these, who knows? Like, I don't think any of these teams have a huge need at running back. All these teams have really good running backs. But actually, I think I'm going to make a game time decision for this draft. I don't think running back's that valuable. I really don't. And I think the Jags could live with not having an outstanding running back right now. Ooh, this is a game time decision. I am totally deviating from what I'm actually going to do. Actually, screw it. I'm going to have him taken. Now, I'm going to go Travis Etienne at 25. Now, I was thinking about it because I was like, oh, okay, Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, freaking... they could have gotten Etienne at 30. Never mind. This was a good pick. So, Jaguars, I think this is pretty easy. I mean, I know they have a pretty solid backfield. Their O-line's, okay. I don't really know. I don't really know because the Jaguars just haven't been that well coached in so long that I'm kind of, they have good guys there. They have pieces. They have Brandon Linder. They have, the left Cam Robinson, who's not bad. They have Juwan Taylor, who's young and getting better, week by week. So it's not like they necessarily have a crazy need. And I also think that there's some great O-line prospects available in the second round that will certainly make this team. Oh, and A.J. Cann. Forgot to mention him, too, on that O-line. But they have pieces there. They're not totally inept. And the one thing that you want to get your number one overall quarterback is, one, great weapons to throw to, but two, you need to get him a run game. I truly believe that Travis Etienne will not only help them in the run game, but in the passing game. And having him and James Robinson in that backfield will be disgusting. So potentially an overdraft of a running back here, but I don't want to put it past the Jags to get who I think is the best running back in this draft. So I'm going to have them taking Etienne at 25. I got to speed up. I'm taking way too long. Okay, 26, Cleveland Browns. I don't know why the hell Jamin Davis, or Jamin Davis, however you pronounce it, is here at 25 of best-ranked players in the draft. But, look, they're going to get Zaven Collins. Big guy, 6'4", great athlete. I like him more than Micah Parsons at the linebacker spot. I think maybe he's not a better athlete in terms of speed, but this guy's big. He's physical. He'll play in between the trenches. And I think next to a guy like Anthony Walker, with that D-line going on, with, now John Johnson added to that whole scheme, I think Zaven Collins is going to excel. Linebacker's been a need for the Browns. I think that getting Christian Barmore here potentially could work out, but I also think that, the Malik Jackson signing, they drafted that young kid. I cannot forget his name, but he was good. And he didn't play a whole lot of snaps last year, but they got a guy in the third round last year that I think could play pretty well, too. He's young. And I also think that they could sign a veteran D-tackle and do just fine or trade for somebody. I don't like the D-tackle prospects right here. And I know I say that right now, but I'm about to draft one in a few picks. But, yeah, I got them going Zaven Collins, linebacker, Tulsa, here at 26. I think it's a pretty easy pick, and I think most Browns fans will agree with me there, so I'm not going to waste any time. Now, the Ravens, oh, good, they updated it for me. God, I don't have to do another trade. It's beautiful. Ravens here at 27, Azeez Ojulari. Look, I know they brought Tyus Bowser and McPhee back, but in the past 2 years, you've not only lost Matt Judon, but you've also lost, oh my God, the other Bull's name. Or not 2 years, but you lost Zadarius Smith. So now your pass rush needs a lot of help. And here I don't think Azeez Ojulari is really an outside linebacker. I think he's just an athletic defensive end that's a little bit light in the ass. Like, I mean, he's a little light, but that's fine. I think that he will be just a fine edge rusher for this team. He's not my highest graded edge rusher. Like, if you want me to be honest, I like some of these guys that are falling in the second round like a little bit better. I think Jalen Phillips is a way better pass rusher than Ojulari, but I'll talk about why I have him going so low in the first round in a second. Like, I like this Ronnie Perkins kid a lot. I think he's athletic enough to play outside linebacker too. Like, I really like some of these guys. But based on what I think the Baltimore Ravens will do, I think a lot of teams have been making calls about Azeez Ojulari. I think he's a pretty sought-out prospect. And he's athletic. He could certainly play edge there. I don't like him that much as a technically sound pass rusher, but he's a great athlete. Like, he certainly can move. He's certainly fast. Taking him at 27, one, it fills position need. Two, I think teams in the NFL like him more than I do personally. But yeah, Azeez Ojulari at 28. A team that has a huge need at the defensive tackle position, the New Orleans Saints. They lost Malcolm Brown, and I think I'm blanking on the other dude's name. Regardless, they lost their two starting defensive tackles. They don't really have a presence there. They also lost Trey Hendrickson in the offseason. D-line's priority for this team. Christian Barmore's, to me, the best D-tackle in this draft. Maybe not the highest upside, but certainly the earliest contributor out of all the D-tackles in this draft. To me, it seems pretty obvious that they would get a defensive tackle here. I'm a lot of juice in here, by the way. It's not juice, it's water. But, Christian Barmore at D-tackle for the Saints, pretty simple to me. I honestly think that this might be a big one I get right, by the way. I'm pretty set in stone about this. No other team has a D-tackle need as bad as the Saints, and I actually had them originally in my original mock draft, trading up here to go get him at 19, but I think he's going to fall. Like, I really don't think that any team is going to have a need at D-tackle that bad that they're like, let's take Christian Barmore instead of some of these other guys. So Christian Barmore at 28. 29. This one's coming out of nowhere, potentially, but Creed Humphrey. The Packers just lost the best center in football, or a guy in the conversation for best center in football. Corey Linsley was a great contributor. Look, you're getting Creed Humphrey, who is just like how Corey Linsley is in the conversation for best center in football last year. Creed Humphrey's in the conversation for best center in this draft. I know Landon Dickerson's name comes out there, but I truly think that he's the best center in this draft, especially in terms of what Green Bay does. He's not necessarily the biggest, most physical guy, but he is a hell of a pass protector. He works up to the second level really well, and I think in this zone run scheme, this Matt LaFleur scheme, he's going to fit in just fine. I think Matt LaFleur likes him. I think that Aaron Rodgers is not going to complain about getting a better offensive line or, them restocking on this offensive line. I think they'll let Corey Linsley walk for a reason, and I think this was the reason why. I don't need to talk about this too much. I just really like Creed Humphrey at center, and I think it's a good need for the Green Bay Packers. Buffalo Bills at 30. Now, this is a pick I've thought about a whole lot. This guy, Jalen Phillips, I know I talked about him earlier. I have him going at 30 here to the Buffalo Bills. Now, here's why I have him falling in the draft. Like, for those of you that don't know, like, you watch him on film, you're like, wow, this guy's pretty freaking good pass rusher. Yeah, he's legit. Like, he's a damn good pass rusher. Now, why? Why the hell is he going 30 down? Like, if you really think he's that good. He, in high school and in college, had troubles with concussions and is part of the reason why he had to transfer to Miami in the first place. I think that the injury risk is not necessarily worth the reward for some teams in this first round, but I think Buffalo is in their Super Bowl window now. And if you get 2 good years out of Jalen Phillips and he has to stop playing football because of concussions, I think it's a risk-reward type thing. Like, if you win a Super Bowl and Jalen Phillips contributes immediately, which I think he will, and I think he'll be very good, you need an edge rusher. I think they could take that risk, and I think they can really afford that risk. I think they're looking at this injury sheet, and they're like, look, man, is Jalen Phillips going to be great? Who knows if he's going to be a Hall of Famer. but he's going to be a damn good defensive end right now. And quite honestly, his technique is good. His athleticism is good. The only red mark for me is that he may never play football again, and that's a huge red mark to have. So Jalen Phillips here at 30 to the Buffalo Bills looks beautiful to me. They need a pass rusher. They can't just go strolling out there with what they had last year. So, yeah, Buffalo Bills, Jalen Phillips at 30, getting a guy at great value, I think. Taking a small risk, high reward. So, at 31 here. So, for those of you that don't know, this screwed up my whole mock draft episode that I filmed last week anyway. So, thank God. Maybe that film getting corrupted was a blessing in disguise. But Baltimore's drafting here at 31. Well, they just got rid of their offensive tackle in that trade to get to this pick. Now, do I have them taking an offensive tackle? Hell no, because I don't think any of them deserve to be going here except for maybe a developmental guy. But who I do have going here is a little bit later on this jaw to the right, and that is Landon Dickerson. What else could I say about this guy? 6'6", an absolute freaking beast of a center. I mean, this guy punishes people. I like him a lot. Has a little bit of injury problems, not crazy injury problems. Like I'm not gonna hold it against Landon Dickerson or anything. I mean, you get injured; it's part of the game. Like there's 100% chance of you getting hurt playing football. It's just how the game works. But Landon Dickerson is a hell of a center. He's big. He's physical. He played for a great scheme that asked him to do a lot. Asked him to make reads at the line. Asked him to do a whole lot. And I think that after Baltimore has now gotten rid of Matt Skura, they don't really have a guy to play the center position for them, especially at a high level. And that is where I think Landon Dickerson comes in. Is he a replacement for Orlando Brown? Not necessarily. But in this power run scheme, having a bruiser at center, having a guy that's going to be good at identifying linebackers, going to be good at the line, is going to be beneficial to Lamar Jackson. I think that the trade here is going to work out great for them. They get extra picks later on in the draft to possibly get a bigger size tackle that's, that could fill in that Orlando Brown position. But Landon Dickerson here looks like best player available to me. I think he's outstanding, and I think that they're getting him a good value here at 31. Final pick. I'm just going to have to search for him because I don't even know what number he is. They have him 84. Oh, God. Well, that's interesting. Anyway, I'll just explain this last pick. Walker Little to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know it sounds crazy. You're like, Walker Little? Guy hasn't played football in 2 years. But look, this guy started as a true freshman at Stanford. Not a lot of true freshmen start at Stanford. And he is a franchise left tackle waiting to happen. Seriously. You get this guy on an NFL roster, the sky's the limit for him. Smart brain, has a hell of a ton of potential. It's just there's a lot of risk at this pick. But just like Buffalo, you're in your Super Bowl window. You don't have many team needs. This O-line, while they played really well last year, is older. A.Q. Shipley's older. The left tackle, Smith, I forget his first name. He's good, but he's older. They're going to need a guy that's going to go opposite of Tristan Wirfs and cover Tom Brady's blind side. If Walker Little doesn't start this year, he's a bona fide starter next year, and I think that he is a stud potential waiting to happen. And hell, even if he doesn't play for the first 8 games this year and he ends up playing the last 8, it's great value. I mean, again, you're getting a potential franchise left tackle, a potential guy that would have been considered a top 3 or 4 tackle in this draft at pick 32. So, I think that the pick's really solid, and I don't know. I don't know how much more I can explain my reasoning here. It's just he fills a need. The need's been covered, and I like the pick here. So, why did I do that? Anyway, yeah. So that's my NFL mock draft. Hey, if I get 10 of these picks right, I'm gonna have to start doing this shit for a living. Seriously, I will be sincerely happy if I get 10 picks right. I'm going to be doing all kinds of video stuff, and I might even be streaming the draft, so stay tuned for that stuff. I'm so sorry I didn't get this mock draft out earlier, but I hope that this gives you a better idea about this NFL draft tomorrow. I'm sorry that I'm not in between the tackles attire as I was in the intro for this video, but Regardless, I hope you enjoy the video that I had with Matt McGlinchey that's also going to be out today. Thank you so much for watching. This is like a nice hour special of Between the Tackles. So all this filming that I'm doing, I hope does not go to waste. So thank you so much for watching. It's 2 a.m. right now. I'm going to go to bed. So